I'm going to call to order the Town of North Topsail Beach regular Board of Aldermen meeting for Wednesday, July 5th. I'm going to ask everybody to put their phones on vibrate, as I do it myself too on my watch. And we're going to go ahead and get started with the invocation with Alderman Grant.
Bless this town, and may it remain a beautiful and friendly place to live. We pray that this board makes fair and informed decisions this afternoon. We also pray that our police officers, firefighters, and members of our armed services here and around the world remain safe as they risk so much for our security. We also pray our town be spared the ravages of hurricanes and other natural disasters, and that everyone associated with the town remains safe and secure, and that we have a very safe summer as well. Amen.
Amen. And the pledge. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And I don't know if everybody saw the fire truck with the flag yesterday, but that was really nice too. So appreciate that. All right, we are going to move on with a request to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? No? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. All right, then we will move right into the manager's report.
Not a whole lot to report on beach operations this time around, because since we're paused for the season. One project I do have to bring up is an update on the sea oats plantings. Coastal Transplants is currently working to complete the sea oats plantings that they were asked to follow up on from last season. We asked them to go back to look at a few areas specifically where there was turtle nestings that they had to come back to. The areas between 205 and 207 Goldsboro Lane, 3622 Island Drive, and we also asked them to go back and assess the area of St. Regis for any follow-up that was needed as well. So they're currently working on that, and they may even be complete as soon as at the end of this week. I haven't received an update today, but that is the last one that I received on Monday. Beach Patrol, we've had 2 beach ambassadors who have been on board since the season started and will continue to monitor hotspots throughout the summer season. Their purpose is to monitor and educate. Our part-time temporary individual for personal property removal from the beach in the evenings was trained and started in June as well. This person will stay on board until the end of the season. Again, this person is put in place as a temporary seasonal employee to help remove any personal property items left on the beach. So we remind people for the safety of people and turtles for nesting, to not leave your tent, chairs, umbrellas, anything that you bring with you, take with you at the end of the day. That certainly helps. Before evening.
Before it starts.
Yes, because he comes on once it's evening, and it's tide dependent as well, so his days vary. We've also received our new Mahindra Roxer for the season that you may have seen in operation, that's been on the beach and also recently assisted in a missing child on the beach. It's 4-wheel drive, capable, weather resistant, and constructed with a fully boxed truck-like steel frame. Previous ATV type beach patrol vehicles proven to have a short lifespan, specifically due to corrosion of the frame components and our environmental conditions. It also has a roof and a windshield, which helps. And also, I have a grant pending still for us to attain a second one. These will replace the 2 previous ATVs that are no longer in use. So those were the previous military style vehicles that we had that we got a lot of good use out of for many years, but they reached they ended their their life expectancy. They were not operating anymore at the end of last season. So it's very important that we get these vehicles in place. As far as the budget, the fiscal year 2023-24 budget was adopted at the board special meeting that was held on June 14th. The adopted budget and fee schedule has been posted to our website for anyone that wants to view it. Hurricane season preparation, we held a hurricane community forum here at Town Hall on June 26th. Stacy Miles, the Onslow County Deputy Director of Emergency Services, along with a representative from the National Weather Service, was on hand to answer any questions and to present. I also invited this year representatives from the utility companies to be present who were here. They spoke a little bit and also answered questions. I would encourage all residents at this point in time, if they have not already done so, to get your reentry passes prior to any named event. Prior to 72 hours prior to any event, we would not be issuing reentry passes, so it's important that you take time to get those now if you haven't already done so. Also, I would encourage everyone to sign up for Code Red notifications. That is the system that we use to communicate with residents, not only for hurricanes, but for any weather or any emergency that the town would be under. So it's important for you to be able to receive timely communications. Please go onto our website and sign up for Code Red. And if you need help with doing that, just contact Town Hall and we'll help you through that. Recycling pilot project. I've been in communication with a company that's called My Matter to do a pilot recycling project at Richard Peters Park. It's a unit that holds two 23-gallon containers that uses artificial intelligence to sort what goes into it by determining what is trash and what is recycling. The pilot project is free to test. If the town decides that they want to purchase these units in the future, we will receive a discount by being part of this pilot project. I expect the project to roll out in August. The units can determine and notify us when containers are full, provide monthly data and sustainability reports. Some communities right now are looking at testing them indoors, but a long-term vision I see for this would be to have it at our beach access points as they continue to develop the product. That's specifically why I want to test it outdoors. This unit in particular is $4,000 per unit. I do see that this product is going to be a very viable candidate for trash and recycling grants, or even thinking out of the box a little bit, having them wrapped with getting sponsors so that they would be wrapped with a company name or an organization's name to be able to pay for the units should we go down that road. I do want to be clear that I don't intend on recommending the town purchase the units unless we obtain grant money or come up with a project where we would engage sponsors to wrap the units in. So they're currently working on larger prototypes, and also I've asked them about incorporating solar into these as well. So again, it's about a longer term vision of what how we could possibly do handle trash and recycling in the future in using these type of units. Okay, Ocean City Jazz Festival. That was held this past weekend to include dedication of the community signs that were at the entrance on each side of the Ocean City community. The community signs and landscaping project were completed in the last week of June, and that was all accomplished through grant funding. At Friday's sign dedication and kickoff party, the town was also presented with an award that's sitting in the back of the room next to the chief. So please make sure you look at that when you leave today. It was for the town's contributions to the festival. Thank you to all staff and also the Ocean City community for a really great event this past weekend. Announcements: Turtle Talks continue throughout the summer to be held every Tuesday at Town Hall from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. here in the boardroom. It's a weekly educational session with members of the Karen Beasley Turtle Hospital, and of course is free to attend. The sea turtle release was held as scheduled on June 21st at Jeffrey's Beach Access, and we had a huge turnout for that event. So it was a really nice event for the town that went off very well without a hitch. If you've not seen it yet, also we had a full page ad in the Topsail Times newspapers July edition that was just released this past Friday. We highlighted what North Topsail Beach has to offer basic information, current events, promoted the Beach Clean initiative, and also had an important part of beach and water safety measures in there, which was the main reason why we wanted to get something out in July, was to really focus on beach and water safety. My intention is to continue with this initiative to highlight season-specific information pertinent town communications as we go through the year. So not just a one-time thing, but to continually look at doing this, to have another way to communicate.
And Alice, on the beach and water safety, did you also get that posted, or can we get it posted to our website as well?
Yeah,
I think
the
that's one.
articles posted, and we also posted it on Facebook once it went out as
Perfect.
well.
Thank you. Any board members have any additional questions? Thank you. Looks like you don't have anything to do now that your beach projects are on hold.
Not a thing.
Okay, so the next item would be an open forum. Do we have anybody who signed up to speak? No? Anybody who would like to speak? Sure. Come on up, Hannah.
Hi. Hannah McLeod, 1835 New River Inlet Road. As the chair of the Planning Committee and the Board of Adjustment, I'd just like to ask for volunteers from the town. We have a lot of new construction. Hopefully some of those are residents, and we certainly could use all the help we can get. There's many volunteers that are on both committees, and it would be very helpful if we had two separate committees, even if we had to have some alternates on both. The planning board has been very dedicated, as well as the Board of Adjustment, and as we grow, there's more Board of Adjustment meetings that are scheduled. So I'd just like to make sure that the town knows that we would be very grateful to anyone who would volunteer. Thank you.
And I just want to say, Alice, where would they find the applications?
On the town's website, anyone who's interested in applying for any board for the town, whether it's the planning board, Board of Adjustment, or any other board, just go to the town's website and submit an application through there. And
Or call. For people who don't want to do all that,
Well,
call
this-
and get the information.
yeah.
Or stop by the,
yeah, they'll
Stop
still
by the
have to
town
submit
hall.
an application, but.
or call me, I don't care.
Yeah, yeah, even call here.
We just
we'll walk you
need
through it.
bodies and people that are willing to help with the growth that we have
Yeah.
here.
Thank you, Hannah. Anyone else? Yes, ma'am, you can come up to the podium. If you could start with your name and address, that'd be wonderful.
I'm Deborah Mitchell. I'm at 201 Shell Street, Rogers Bay Campground. And I'm not here to cause any problems. My husband is 100% disabled with the military because he has developed brain cancer from being in the desert. I would like to try to get the crossover right in front of Rogers Bay handicap. He has lost all of his peripheral vision. He's lost 65% of his hearing from radiation and chemo. And now from his knees down, his legs are going numb. So we've been in that campground about 10 years. And he loves going over there and getting his toes in the sand. But now it's all we can do to get him across all those steps and back over. So if there's anything we can do to help get that as a handicap, I'd appreciate it. I don't know about nobody else, but I need it for my husband.
It's definitely something that we can look at. I know that we've explored some other areas in the town, and we've had some challenges as far as the space to get, a long enough ramp at the right slope to get up and over and down. But certainly we could take a look at that in that area and see if that's something that could be accommodated. I think we're always looking for ways to help people get to the beach.
I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Anybody else? All right, we are going to move on to public presentations and hearings. And I think Mr. Fontana would like to introduce our speaker.
Yes, I asked Danny, who is Danny Ferrucci, who's the new executive director of the Onslow United Transit System, to come speak to the board and to the town about the services that are available to the community. A lot of folks are not aware that there is a public transportation system in Onslow County that residents of North Topsail Beach can use. A little background about Danny. I was on the search committee to find a new executive director after the long-term director, Carol Long, retired. And Danny comes to Onslow County after 21 years experience in the U.S. Army as an officer. And the one thing that impressed the search committee the most about Danny was his logistics experience. He told us about, I think, moving, I don't know if it was 20,000 people and facilities and equipment and lodging and everything from Kansas, I think it was, to Poland, and had to do it in like 60 days or less, and just the whole process. And I knew if Danny can do that, he could do transportation in Onslow County. So with that introduction, I'll let Danny make his presentation.
All right, thank you, Ms. Mayor, town aldermen, town officials. Thank you for having me here. My name is Danny Ferrucci. I'm the executive director of Onslow United Transit. And like Fred said, we provide public transportation to the county. There we go. All right, so here we have our mission and philosophy. So, you know, the main thing is safe, reliable, and efficient transportation for clients being able to move in and around Onslow County, right? So some of our philosophy and intent, you know, quality transportation within our service area. Our service area is Onslow County. To provide more efficient and convenient transportation for the clients who need, or the residents who need transportation, right? That population who may not have a vehicle or privately owned vehicle, or are elderly or disabled. You know, those are, you know, services that we can provide to our residents here in Onslow County. And then the why for this is, you know, this is a way to connect, you know, our residents to the services they may need, right? So medical, health and wellness, you know, those looking for employment and need to get to and from their jobs, those, and then also with the education and retail and entertainment. So, you know, bringing back within the community, allowing our residents to be able to go out and, you know, spend money within their local community and increasing the economy there. Next slide, please. So a little background about Onslow United Transit. So Onslow United Transit was incorporated by the county in 1979. So the county identified a need for public transportation. We were the first public transportation affiliate services for the county, which started in 1979. So we are a nonprofit. So we are a 501c4 nonprofit. And we have our board of directors, like Fred is, you know, currently our president of our board. He'll be stepping down at the next meeting here in 2 weeks. Yeah, it was a pleasure to have him here with, you know, 40 plus years of transit experience, and having that in your back pocket is, you know, very beneficial, you know, for me stepping in the seat here and then trying to, you know, continue what Onslow United Transit has done over the last, you know, 40 plus years. And then, you know, grow it to something where all citizens and residents of the county can have that transportation, have that mobility for all, right? Next slide, please. So a little bit about our services. So we offer subscription demand response services, and then also for the general public transportation. So when we talk about subscription, first and foremost, I want to say everything is you have to apply to be able to ride with Onslow United Transit. So we are funded by multiple state and federal grants, and then through those grants, we can place clients within the funding source, and we can identify where those clients go within those grants that the state and federal offer. Also, we have contracts as well with the county and the city. County mainly with Medicaid and their 200% workforce. And then also with the city, operating their ADA paratransit within the city of Jacksonville. Okay. So those are a little bit of the descriptions there as far as the services that we have. So when we talk about subscription, we're mainly looking at those who, it's the same day, same time throughout the week. So we talk about some of our dialysis clients, those who have to go to employment, so to and from employment, same day, same time every day. So those are what we're really talking about, the subscription there. Demand response, that's just, letting us know up to 24 hours the day prior to say, hey, we need a ride to go to XYZ, and then we're able to schedule that in within our scheduling software to get them where they need to go and back home. So that's what we mean by demand response. Who can ride? So it's open to pretty much everyone in Onslow County. And what I mentioned before, a lot of his medical appointments, we have work, daycare, shopping, health and wellness, and leisure activities of those nature. Next slide, please. What we do and how we different from Jacksonville Transit. Jacksonville Transit within the city does their fixed route. They hit all the bus stops within, their routes. I think they have 5 total routes. What we do is curb to curb, or what we like to call door to door. So our drivers arrive to your destination. We assist you from your door to our van. And same thing on the drop off, we assist you off the van to the first door that you have to get into. So that's what we mean by door-to-door service. And we are a non-emergency transportation. I'm glad that the town manager had highlighted the hurricane services. So one thing that we do not have on this slide during any type of, hurricane services. So we tie in with Norman Bryson at the Onslow County EOC. So we have a spot there with DSS and the county managers there, assistant manager there, and we work with them for evacuations prior to, and then, mainly medical appointments following the hurricane. So following the hurricane, we assist there. So we are heavily involved there. Staff is at EOC in the county working with social services to make sure that we can provide the right transportation to the clients to get them to where they need to go. Next slide, please. So a little bit about our daily services. So if we look at the times here, so Monday through Friday, so when we look at 6 a.m., that's first drop off. So our hours start way ahead of 6 o'clock in the morning. Our first client that we actually pick up every day, Monday through Friday, we come out here to Sneads Ferry, and we're dropping off a client to Stones Bay Dining Facility, and that's at 4 o'clock in the morning. So our first driver is getting into the office at 3. He's leaving Jacksonville Station 3:30, and getting that first client to Stones Bay to be able to, assist there at the dining facility. That's the one exception that we kind of have right now. But like we said, those times are first drop off and last pickup. Okay. ADA, that's more in line with Jacksonville Transit, but that's on their schedule. That's run 365 days a year. So when we talk about our out-of-county trips, so now those are all medical trips out of county. So currently, right now, we're only operating out of county Tuesdays and Thursdays. We're building up our drivers once we get to a capacity where we can sustain and manage out of county daily, then we'll continue to do that. But we're not far from, hitting that point where we can go Monday through Friday out of county. So when we talk about some of the fares here, so it's all either contract based or through the funding source. So the fares range between $2 and $5. So if we're speaking North Topsail Beach, Sneads Ferry area, If you're not within one of the contracted services or elderly or disabled, and you're just a, regular general public, person within, Sneads Ferry, North Topsail Beach area, that's $5. So $5 one way. So when we look at, cost and then the efficiency of moving, clients around where they need to get, it's far, far less than, what you would get at a taxi service or, a Uber or Lyft. Next slide, please. So I was able to kind of work with the county GIS to kind of develop some data points here. So working with them, you kind of get the county's, population density, and then with the overlay of that is the current clients that we currently have. So when you look at Onslow County, we're roughly, 760, square miles, land square miles, not counting the water, with a population of over 200,000. So on the bottom left, you kind of see the North Topsail, Sneads Ferry, the greater North Topsail area, right? So we go to the next slide. Kind of broke this down even further. So right now we have two clients who actually live in North Topsail Beach, and roughly 191 clients, and this is dating back to March, so this could be more since we pulled this data here. But it's roughly like the southwestern part of Onslow County, which kind of calculates, where North Topsail, Sneads Ferry is located, and the Holly Ridge area. So just to kind of give, the mayor, Aldermen's kind of like a snapshot of, where some of those clients are within your area. Next slide, please. And the main thing for me coming here, and it was something that I would like to continue, moving forward, maybe twice a year, just coming here and just kind of, keeping that awareness, keeping the dialogue going between the municipalities that are in the county. I've been to Swansboro and Richlands, trying to, a lot of the commissioners or aldermen within those municipalities, it was roughly about a 50-50 chance that they knew about Onslow United Transit. So I think that's one of the main focuses there. Being able to communicate with you guys today, and really for, North Topsail Beach to be, an advocate and a voice for those who may need the services that we can provide them. So these are some of the questions for, everyone here to just, really consider, in the future that, there's things that we can provide. There's options out there that can assist with, the residents in the greater North Topsail Beach area.
And Danny, I do want to thank you for your years of service in the military. It's much appreciated, and you are definitely bringing that forward to what you're doing now with Onslow United.
And I want to thank you, Danny, for coming today. I did not know about this service, so I think that it's great that the awareness will be there, and we'll be able to we can post the presentation with the minutes, right? So I appreciate it. Does anybody have any other questions for Danny?
I just have one question. So you said your funding is state and federal, there's nothing that comes in from the county?
So we have contracts through the county, yes. So we work with senior services, adult services, a lot of it's Medicaid.
You coordinate with the counties, my question.
Yep, we do, absolutely.
Go ahead, Hannah. Did you have a question?
I was just
Yes,
wondering,
ma'am.
if there was an evacuation, would you have transportation to your shelters?
Yes, ma'am. So during hurricanes, something that, Carol Long, the previous executive director, and what we've worked out and what works well is, right around the May timeframe, we reached out to our drivers. They volunteered to be able to, provide services. We kind of strategically place those drivers. They take the vans home with them. So we know Onslow County turns into a series of small little islands within the county, right? So the drivers having the vehicle with them to be able to operate within a certain area of the county and be able to support those shelters there. So we do operate, 40-mile-an-hour sustained winds. That's our cutoff. So I want to say it's usually 2 to 3 days prior to an event that, we're tying in with the EOC, we're moving there, and we start our evacuations, to be able to assist there as much as possible. All right, but we do strategically place our vans throughout the county to be able to operate within those areas. So that's something that, moving forward with EOC, with GIS, trying to get some more overlays. I love overlays. To see where those potential islands and those areas are going to be at. So, are we placing our vehicles in the right area? Do we need to look at other areas to place our vehicles? So, yep.
That's perfect, thank you.
Yeah, and the other thing along those lines, once folks are in shelters and they may not be able to get back home, I believe, Danny, you'll be able to transport them if they have to go to the doctors or to any place from the shelters.
Yep, so the priority will be medical appointments from those shelters, and that's all communicated with the help desk that will be at EOC there. And then, you have, portions of the human service agencies or the consolidated human service agencies of the county. We're all working hand in hand, in the same room there to be able to make sure that we can provide that transportation for, the clients. But the priority from there would be medical appointments, following a hurricane. Yes.
Any additional questions? No? Well, thank you, sir, very much. We appreciate you coming to North Topsail.
Thank you.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Just a comment. Those of you that may have seen the ATM segment in the board packet for this meeting might have noticed that at the north end of the island where that Army Corps sand and the Dorian sand and the state sand has been placed, that sand is still in place, particularly at the Topsail Reef, even though it looks like, the high tide mark comes all the way up to the bag line. You got a heck of a beach at low tide. So that sand is hanging around in that area, which is a very good thing for the north end.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Right, the next item would be the continuing business, which is the BISAC update. So do we have Chair Strother that would like to give us an update?
Good morning. Almost didn't make it, though. Nancy saved me. Real quickly, the manager's report that we got was about like the one you got, that everything's coming to an end on the beach, and so we're not doing anything again until the fall for all practical purposes. And all the other things that she enlightens us on all the time. And the biggest part of our meeting was going to have been the continuing discussion of our 5-year action plan and the 30-year plan. And it was on schedule, and it was actually early that morning that I was alerted that Mr. Gibson was not going to be able to make it due to some health issues. And so we went ahead and had our meeting, and he and I discussed, the committee and I discussed the possibility of having a special called July session of the BISAC committee. And I agreed that I would talk to Chris after that meeting. I did talk to him later, and he and I decided that he had enough time by moving it out a month, that he had enough time to still accomplish what needed to be accomplished so that the year wasn't going to get away without being able to do some contracts and things if necessary, if the plan was approved. So what we did do, we since we're not having a July meeting, we moved him. He'll be the brunt of our agenda for our August meeting, and he was going to be with the Board of Aldermen in August, but now that's going to be moved to September. And I had talked to Manager Darian about that. So that is, I just want to make sure that I did tell you that and why, and we just felt like it was better for him to have the time to get everything he needed to do. Because he said, give me 10 days and I'll get back, but we just didn't want to rush that process. We just want to make sure that we did all that. We did have some discussion. Our committee members are very aggressive and would like to do more and more. And so they wanted to discuss whether we could put together work groups and start talking about some other things that we could do. And we sort of beat that subject to death. And in the final end, we determined that our main goal and drive is going to be the 5-year action plan. Once it comes in place, we don't need to be looking for other things to do. If the board determines that there's other things they'd like for BISAC to look at, then certainly we'll do that. But we think we're going to have plenty to do once he gets this 5-year action plan, and once you approve that plan and be ready to get started. So they all understood that and just said they were ready if need be. So I assured them that if we needed more time put in, they'd have the opportunity. We did have some public comments. Basically involving Phase 4 and the continuation and finishing of Phase 4 and when that was going to happen, and Manager Darian answered that and to the satisfaction of the gentleman. And then there was a question about where we're going to find a new place for the trucks to go in to complete Phase 4 because some of the people are getting tired of it continuing to go where it's been going all this time. So, and Manager Darian did alert everybody that they were looking and talking about that. Don't know if anything's been done, but that's where we were. Our next meeting is scheduled on Tuesday, August the 15th at 10:30, and that's my report. Thank you very much. Any questions for anybody?
Any questions from the board? No? Thank you very much, sir. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, the next item is under continuing business would be the DOT Memorandum of Understanding.
Yes, I added that as a placeholder in the event that I received the updated MOU from the DOT, which I have not yet. But again, I did ask them to just add tentative proposed dates to the deliverables with associated payments to the agreement. So that, I'm still waiting on that. Hopefully, I will have something from them for the August meeting.
Okay.
But
I
I'll
did see
continue to try.
some correspondence going back and
Yeah.
forth, so they're responding, they just quite haven't given you what you need.
Correct.
Okay. Okay, under new business, I'm gonna turn it over to Alderman Grant for streaming conversation.
Yeah, I mean, when I sent it initially, it said steaming, so, so, I know, we're not going there, but apparently you're allowed to steam seafood in this town. I want to have a discussion, and it's not something I think that's going to be resolved today, about when I've gone to a lot of these county meetings, they've talked, apparently this is really beating them to death in terms of transparency and what's going on and who should do what, and whether we should be live streaming, the other meetings that we have here. And so I think the issue is about transparency. I think the other thing too, and I would compliment Hannah for the way that she ran her part of the meeting. I would not say that meeting went smoothly, but that we're going to have issues about fines. We're going to have other issues, I think, that you brought up in there. And the question is, on something like that, I think there's going to be a need for greater transparency. And for those of you that don't know, one of the recommendations of planning was approved and one was not approved, and as that went. And Board of Adjustments. I'm sorry, Board of Adjustments. I said planning, I meant Board of Adjustments. But I think in terms of whether we should, I mean, from an accountability standpoint, from a transparency standpoint, I think that we should have a discussion about how that should play out. And honestly, I didn't do the research to find out what other towns are doing with that. I just know it's become a major issue with the county in terms of the social media stuff about you're not doing this. Now, obviously, our meetings are live, but I just want to throw it out as a discussion item and throw it to you, Mayor.
I personally think that all of our meetings should either be recorded or streamed and available for everybody to see, especially as Hannah had mentioned, looking for volunteers for the planning department or planning board and Board of Adjustments. If they aren't able to see what types of topics are being discussed and what might interest them, I think it's hurting our ability to have people volunteer. I also think that it's public information and they should be able to see it.
My understanding is everything is recorded.
Yes.
Okay. The question is more about should it be live or not? I mean, and the reality is I really don't know, and I guess Ricky could tell us how many people actually follow this live. I think the majority of people probably view it afterwards.
But I don't think that while we may record everything, I don't think we post everything, do we, Alice?
As far as Board of Adjustments or planning, no, that is not posted. The videos have not been posted.
So as an additional, while we may, and we'll talk to the board and see if we need to have additional conversations, but at the very minimum, those should be posted. And I'll start with Ms. Plow.
My first inclination is I agree with you. I do think it should be. But then I would like to know what the pros and cons are. Are there any cons to streaming it? To me, it seems like, oh, there are. Okay.
Well, my only point is, I mean, it is public. They could attend if they wanted to in person today. So if they're at least recorded and posted, then people still have the opportunity to see what is being discussed and what's happening. But again, I don't know the pros or cons, streaming versus
Yeah,
that.
I do think that this does warrant more looking into and more discussion. Exactly.
Yes, sir.
I want to hear from the attorney about it, and I want to hear a recommendation from our manager,
Yes, sir.
because we're going to put this on her back at the end of the day through her staff.
Yep, go ahead, Brian. Yes, please.
Microphone.
Only if you hit the button.
Microphone.
Sorry. Several towns do. It's not required by statute. If it is streamed and it's still in our possession, it's a public record. So I think it needs to be a white or black policy. Either we're going to do it and it's available or it's not. A lot of times we will record them both audio and visually for assistance with the minutes, especially the planning board, because we don't generally have, I don't think we've ever had a court reporter at the planning board. So it's really a policy decision to make. I mean, those all, just so we're all clear about transparency, the meetings are all open to the public and duly advertised. But it would be another layer of someone who perhaps couldn't attend the meeting to watch it. So there's an upside there, and I'll let the members of each board address any potential downsides they see.
Okay.
Yes, and I will add that anytime that a video has been requested following the planning board or board of adjustment meeting, I have asked staff to release that, so it has been provided. I would say that there has been a recent uptick in requests for these meetings to be streamed. Not only ones from people, from residents who have requested after meetings, but also people calling in questioning why they are not streamed right now. So there is a desire for that to be done. I think as far as staff goes, it's no more burden on staff to do that. It's just a matter of the board making the decision to stream them just like we do this meeting.
So would your recommendation be to?
My
go ahead and
recommendation would
stream
be
it?
to stream.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Yeah, my only concern is I think we need to be more specific or delineate which committees need to be streamed and which do not. I mean, where do you draw the line? I understand the planning board and board of adjustments, and I assume that would also extend that to the BISEC committee, but then does that mean if any of those groups have subcommittees that meet, are those meetings also supposed to be streamed? So I think we need definitely some more information before we make any decisions one way or the other as to what is and what isn't going to be streamed.
Brian, I think you can address that as far as recognized board committees, and that would be the planning board, the board of adjustment, and the Parks and Recreation Committee once they're reestablished again, and the BISAC committee as an official committee.
And just because you do again, I'm not aware of any statutory mandate that you stream them or even video them for that matter. And you can choose which boards and committees you want to, but they're all public records and open to the public. So again, that's a policy decision.
So do we have anyone who'd like to make a motion?
I was just going to ask one question. Hannah, would you mind, you're the, would you weigh in and give your thoughts? That was great, thank you. No, but I think that,
She's got notes, wait a minute.
Oh, okay.
Hannah McLeod. I've been on the planning board as an alternate, as chair, for probably way too long. And we hatch things out. We do the good, the bad, the ugly. We go try to get the information from that we think people would, the pros and cons, excuse me, of the situation. And the volunteers that we have, some of them are professional people in the town. In the 15 years I've been on the board, I could probably count on two hands people coming to the meeting that aren't involved. I would like to know exactly how many people have requested information that were outside of the actual issue that was being discussed. I'd also like to know how many people stream the meetings at the Planning Board and Board of Adjustment, again, outside of the people that are involved. I'd also like to know how many people pick it up afterwards. And, are we looking at 0.5% or are we looking at 50%? And I think that makes a big difference, especially on the Planning Board. We report directly to you. We don't report to the town. You give us the information and we take that information, we share that information, we dig down in the dirt in that information. And again, we have professionals who work in this town, who have been here for 20 years, who, and you know as well as I do, people take one sentence out of what you've said online and, and blow it out of proportion. And we have enough trouble getting people to be on those boards. We don't need to restrict them anymore. Nobody likes to be videoed, bottom line. If you had your druthers, you wouldn't want it. We don't have anything to hide from anybody. But if you're here, if you really care, you'd be here. And again, I say, over the last 15 years, I'd say that you're probably the only one here. Besides, we used to have another guy that came every week, or every month.
But we also, Hannah, we also do have a lot of folks that aren't full-time residents, so they don't have the ability to come in person. It doesn't mean that they're not interested.
Right, that's
in the
why I'm
topics.
asking for the information, because for the past, 2-3 years, we've had it's been recorded, and we have somebody who specifically does all that. So I want to know how many people are actually interested enough in this town, not just the complainers.
Well,
Wait a minute, I think I have some more too.
Okay, go ahead.
Let me respond to a couple of those questions.
Okay.
We've officially released 2 recently of the videos from requests. I personally have received phone calls from residents, probably it's been about in the 3 to 5 range,
Okay.
asking why we haven't. I can't
For
speak
that,
for
for
the board.
planning board or board of adjustment? Just across the board?
Across the
Well,
board.
this meeting is is live
Correct.
streamed, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. I did have one a week ago that asked specifically for planning board, so it varies.
Okay.
But the requests are there, but I can only speak to the ones I get. I know the board has received inquiries over the past year.
So that's 5
or
inquiries
couple
out of
months.
700 residents and maybe
I know,
another
but-
700 people who
But
are part-time.
we don't get to choose who we release the information to. So whether it's an interested citizen for a reason, or whether it's somebody who wants to complain because they don't like somebody on the planning board or the Board of Aldermen, we still have to release and treat everybody
Right, and we've been
equally.
doing that all along.
No, I understand.
And, you know,
We
all
don't
that
know how
information
many
is
people-
recorded.
Do you
And we
have,
don't know how many people there are, because you asked about, that are streaming, they're watching the streaming from the Planning and Board of Adjustments. We don't know that because we're not streaming it right now. Just, we just
You
know
said something about
the
requesting it?
number- Yes, correct. So I just wanted to
So,
clarify
yeah,
that.
again, you're talking maybe 5 people, of which, how many of those were involved in the actual case for the Board of Adjustment?
One that I talked to a week ago specifically was not involved in
Okay.
anything.
Okay,
It was
one.
just a
Just,
resident.
just a quick question for you. As I understand it, though, the minutes of all of those meetings, the written minutes are always available.
Correct.
So is
Yes.
the issue, I mean, to me, and again, I'm not trying to play lawyer on this, is you're releasing it as minutes anyway. I mean, I know that's a
But the-
summary, okay? And I understand that, and I don't think in the live streaming, we allow people to call in and make comments anyway, right? So
Right.
all it would do, if I was on the planning board, the reason it wouldn't bother me is I would rather have the real record of what I discussed, not having somebody else say, well, you said this or you said that.
Well-
I understand that, believe me, I understand the Facebook and the, and that kind of stuff, and that, you know, that there can be some issues relating to that. But we already are releasing basically the crux of what's
Well,
happening.
minutes do not go into depth like the recording does. And again, how many people are listening to those recordings for the planning board?
but
Or,
I would also say, Hannah, sometimes it's just a more difficult process to request information, just like I've asked our building department if there's a way we could streamline our system to put our permit requests in online to request. Because if I'm listing a house for sale, I like to pull all the permits, and I have to do a records request. It has to be emailed over, and Kate is extremely responsive.
Right.
But some people don't like to take that step to call in or to email and ask for it, is the only point I'm making.
I have a comment.
Yes, sir.
We asked Hannah to come up. We asked Hannah to come up and give her perspective as a long-term member of both the Planning Board and Board of Adjustments, for which I wanted to say personally, I appreciate all of your service to the town. You've been doing it a long, long time, and
too long.
you know, you, one of the people who, when you think about the glue that holds the town together, you and your service to the town on both of those boards comes immediately to my mind. But we've called her up, Rick called her up and asked her to give her perspective on it, which I fully understand and respect. And I've been to a couple of those meetings, and as Brian Eads can attest, I've been a participant in one of those meetings many years ago with the Board of Adjustments. But we've asked her to come up and give her perspective, and now we're sitting here and trying to explain to her why we think it should be different. And let's just take Hannah's
Perspective.
perspective at what it is and not try to defend the opposite position, because I think you make some really good comments, and I agree with you. And I agree with your perspective on this.
Thank you. Like I said, the most important thing to us is that we report to the aldermen. And so the minutes are there. The minutes are a synopsis of what actually happens at the meeting. And like I said, at that meeting, we try to play the devil's advocate. We dig down in the dirt. The long term, the short term, and we've made mistakes because we've made rules that can't be followed every time, or we have one word in the in our information to you, and that Dune word gets us every time, because as we talked at the last meeting, I don't know how many of you go on and listen to the planning board. I mean, you were there, but that's the first time in a long time you'd been there. But those are the kind of things that that are important, that are going to get tossed in the weeds. I mean, we were there for 3.5 hours the other night. I'm sorry, I don't care anybody's live streaming. They're not live streaming it for 3.5 hours. So, like I said, and the other thing is that a lot of times our meetings are just training, and we ask questions, and we we ask questions, even if we know the answer sometimes, to try to get the other perspective of questions of why this was, why this rule was made or why this procedure is followed. So it's pretty boring a lot of times too. So, but again, it seems so much in this whole world that the minority is running the whole place and nobody wants to volunteer to do anything. And everybody's critical and, wants all the information, but nobody's willing to actually come or watch live stream. I mean, if we have 30 people that are watching or 10 people that are watching, what kind of percentage is that? And do they really, are they doing it at the moment or not? But my biggest concern is the professional people that we hope to have on those committees being stifled in what they're able to ask questions about that they feel. Again, that information is going to be right on the recording. That's not a problem for us. But when it's being videoed, you all know that you kind of hold back a little bit, and we can't afford to hold back at the planning board.
Okay, thank
Thank
you,
you.
Hannah.
Thanks, Anna.
So Rick, this was your
And
topic.
I would just like to say too, if you're asking for the planning board, I would also ask the BISAC chair if you're looking at opening up to other committees on his opinion of streaming of the BISAC committee while you're having this discussion. Now is the time to
Okay.
ask.
Yes, sir.
I'm Larry Strother, and I live at 308 Lanterna Lane, Phase 5. Thank gosh we got ours done. Anyway, I'm listening, and I think there's absolutely nothing wrong. Everything is wide open to everybody that wants to attend. And what percentage of ownership is don't live here?
Yeah, there's a high percentage that
Okay.
do not live here.
All right, they're not interested in how the sausage is made. They want to see the results of what's happening. And what Hannah was saying is exactly correct, that the people that are a party to the issue that's being discussed are going to have been there. And as a curiosity seeker, if I'm just wondering, well, how will this affect me down the road, then I'm not interested enough that I want to come. So it's a matter of, and I think what she's saying is correct. I mean, there are conversations that will be had that you will hold back some on if you know that you're being recorded, but they're necessary to get to some end. I think that this meeting needs to surely be streamed live so that everybody, because everybody on the island that owns property has some interest in what's happening here. I think that perhaps the BISAC committee, it'd be okay for it to be live streamed because it affects everybody on the island, because it works with the beach, which is the most important asset that we have. So I think that there's nothing wrong with that. And I don't know without talking to my committee, but I don't personally have any heartburn with it being streamed, because it does affect most everybody, and it all asks the same kind of questions when they come into our meetings, and that's when's this going to happen, and that's going to happen, and whatnot. And this can keep them kind of abreast, even if they don't live here, but they own beachside property. So I don't know that I have any heartburn with that, and we'll talk about it. But I don't think that a lot of the smaller committees that I think that all those people really care about, and those that do care more about it can come to the meetings or request information. But I don't think that if you go out there live stream it, that you're going to have that many people look at it. I think you'd just be wasting putting it out there. And you will affect the way that some of the meetings are held. Not that they're not public if somebody wants to come. But the minutes that come out of there may be different than the way that, the minutes that come from BISAC are, all the conversation that was had is not always in there because it's not, it's not pertinent to what the final result was, which is what anybody cares about. But I do think that, but I do believe it is important for the chairs or whatever the title may be of those committees to have some input, just like Ms. Hannah has, because I think it is an area and things that's going to be potentially negative, but may not end up negative. All that people are going to hear is the negative portion, not what it finally ended up being. And it's going to create a problem. That's just my opinion. And I'll answer any questions anybody would have me about that.
Thank you, sir. I think we're good. So Rick, this was your topic. What would you like to?
No, I wanted to bring it up as an issue, and I think that, we ought to think about it, try to do some more things. Because I think the other thing that Larry left out on that last part was, at BISAC, we're trying to figure out a way to educate people. So having, about the beach in particular, I see Terry nodding her head as well. And, this is almost like an advertisement for BISAC when Chris gets up and talks about, this is going on, this, because to me, most people are going to have an interest in that versus other things. And I think that, and again, I think Hannah makes some good points. We don't want to not have those kind of discussions, but I also feel like, particularly given what happened in the last Board of Adjustments, that we need to make sure that we have good records in place, whether that's streaming or recording or whatever. So I would just throw it out that I brought it up for the first time. I haven't given people a chance to really deliberate on this, but to give it some thought.
The Board of Adjustments meetings have a reporter, right, or a recorder?
Generally, the reporter was, sick, or I don't know what the right word,
Stenographer.
and was unable to find a substitute this past one.
But as a general rule,
Yes, sir.
as a general rule, when we have a hearing at a Board of Adjustments meeting, we have a recorder or reporter, whatever the right word is, so. I really side with her on this. The meetings are public, the meetings are open. And for them to be able to, for the board members on the planning board and Board of Adjustments to, particularly the planning board, to get down and wrestle in the mud when they have to. Be able to not worry about being recorded when they want to really discuss an issue emphatically and emotionally. I think particularly given the guidance that we've received from our long-term planning board chair, that I kind of tend to think that for now, we ought to leave it the way it is.
And just real quick, my response to that is, I have less concerns about planning board than I do Board of Adjustments. Okay, particularly after having sat through the one that I sat through last week, in terms of having a good record in case there's appeals and things like that. And to be honest with you, you can have minutes, but unless you've got somebody that is a technically court reporter that is taking down everything, you're not going to have the record that you have in that. Her point is very well taken on the planning board, which, I'm open to consider whatever. I think, respect Hannah's thing, because the planning board to me is more of, I'm going to use the wrong term, planning and thinking and philosophy and about, kicking stuff around and those type of things.
It's advisory, I think.
Advisory, that's a good way to put it.
So I think that there may be some middle ground, because I know that Ms. Darian she expressed that she would like them to be streamed or live. So is there a step in the middle where we could continue to talk through this, but at least have the recordings posted? That's not streaming. I mean, they're being recorded
My
now.
feeling is if we've
That's the
recorded
same-
anything,
that's
we
the
should,
same-
that's a
that's
public
It's just that
record.
they're watching it after, not during.
It's the same thing.
Okay.
Right. It's the same thing.
No, my point
And
though
I
is,
do
it seems
think-
to me that's a record of this
It-
town.
There's no question about that.
And so anything that we have recorded, whether it's streamed live or whatever, is a record of this town that is
Absolutely.
available to the public.
But legally, and Brian, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but the recordings can be disposed of after the minutes are completed. So,
You don't technically even have to have a recording, it just facilitates the minutes. But if you have it and someone asks for it, you have to give it to them
Correct.
under the Public Records Act,
correct.
if it's still in your possession. And I was involved in a case, right hand didn't know what the left hand was doing. There were some records this particular town, one this town had to keep, or didn't have to keep. So they were disposing of the records the next morning after a public records request came in because it didn't get to that department, and you can see the optics there.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, we just need to make sure the right hand knows what the left hand's doing. If we have a policy on how long, I recommend we have a policy on how long we keep the recordings if we're not gonna keep them forever. In other words, if it's to the minutes are done, the minutes are.
Well, and that's the simplicity of just having it streamed and posted, is
I don't
the
see any
simplicity for
downside
on
of
staff's part.
keeping the recordings. Like I said, anyone that's wants to come to the meeting is welcome to come to the meeting. To Mr. Grant's point, the Board of Adjustments record legally probably has more significance because it's almost, what it is, more verbatim if it gets appealed to Superior Court. Planning Board, especially the roles of our planning board, some planning boards do approve certain plats, things like that. I can't see that any action of the planning board or inaction going to Superior Court.
It's advisory.
Right, but Board of Adjustment's a different ballgame.
And that's my point.
And that was kind of my suggestion as well, that there's more legal standing with the Board of Adjustment, and that should be streamed, because the word for word verbatim is actually law and could become, part of a court case. I don't see that happening as much on a planning board, which is more advisory. So I would suggest that the advisory ones continue to be recorded, but the Board of Adjustment and this committee, this board, be streamed.
So Fred, is that the motion you'd like to make?
Yes.
Okay.
And how long for the recordings to be kept, with the intention until the minutes are done, or kept on
In perpetuity.
file in perpetuity?
I would ask Brian how long he would recommend that the recordings be kept on hand.
I mean, you could say 6 months, or till the minutes are finished, or 6 months, whichever occurs.
Okay, that's fine.
Well, the minutes, you have to have it. Generally, we get the minutes done within 6 months. Is that?
I don't know. You've
Not,
been away for 3 months.
the planning board is, so,
Yeah.
yeah.
You could use 6 months as a starting point if that, I mean, just because it's a policy doesn't mean we have to destroy it if we're not, don't have the minutes finished in the 6 months.
Madam Mayor, we're kind of doing this on the fly, and I'm hearing this and that amendment to what the main issue was discussed. I think we need to table this until we can get a clear presentation from the town manager on the advice of the lawyer
Well, we
as
have-
to how we
I-
move forward.
I said I gave you my opinion.
So, but we do have a motion, sir, so I think we need to finish
Was
that.
there a second?
So what is the motion?
What's the motion?
What Fred's motion was, I believe, was to stream the Board of Adjustments meetings as they are legal in nature, and he was looking for a recommendation on to how long to hold the other recordings for, and it sounded like what I had heard was until the minutes are done, 6 months, or until the minutes are done.
Well, that wasn't part of the motion. That was the town manager's question after the motion was made.
Okay.
I understood the motion to be.
And are we
Okay.
talking
Well,
about?
wait, that's one person at a time, Brian. You
And I
understood
don't
the
wanna
motion to be,
Put words in your mouth. I understood the motion to be that we would streamline Board of Aldermen and Board of Adjustment
Yep.
meetings and record everything else, and then that was the motion.
that's
And
true.
then
Then he
there-
asked a
Then
question.
there was a question about how long we keep the minutes.
Well, can I amend the motion?
Yes.
To add that the recordings be kept for 6 months after the time of the meeting?
Is there a second? Does that amend the
Do I
motion?
have a second? And then we can have discussion? No second?
I'll second it so we can start, so we can, too many things. I'll second it so we can start the discussion.
Okay.
Does this include BISAC? We're going to post the,
No, Board of Adjustments and the Board of Aldermen.
No, but
well, I will like to amend the motion that we post the recordings of the BISAC committee. I don't
Can't-
see any reason not to.
Procedurally, since there's an amended motion on the floor, the maker of that motion would have to amend the amended motion.
Well, my intent on the motion was to include BISAC, all the other committees that are not legally binding, like the Board of
You
Adjustment.
didn't say
Well-
that, though.
All other boards or committees other than the Board of Aldermen and the Board of Adjustment, those were the two that were streamlined pursuant to your amended motion.
Correct.
So all others would include any other.
No, I want the Board of Adjustment and this board to be streamlined. All other boards just need to be recorded and kept on file for 6 months after the meeting is held.
Right, and then Mr. Benson asked if we could also post the recordings of BISAC. So that would be the motion, I believe, combined.
Do you want to amend your amended motion to include that?
Yes.
So the motion on the floor right now is to stream the Board of Adjustment meeting, the Board of Aldermen meeting, to record the recordings of the BISAC meeting. So that is the current motion, and I think we have,
Well, and now the motion
Oh my
was
gosh,
also to
Fred.
include the BISAC, the planning board, and Parks, and any other committee that the Board of Aldermen creates.
I have a question for the attorney. Can we unmake this motion and start over? Because I am freaking lost,
I don't think it's been seconded yet, so,
okay?
so the motion,
I ain't the smartest guy at this table, but I'm lost.
That's what I said a minute ago.
Well, then I'll withdraw the motion. How about that?
I would like to make a motion, okay, that we record the various meetings, that we stream the Board of Adjustments and this meeting, all right, that we keep the that we keep the recordings, okay, for a period of either 6 months or until the minutes for those meetings are kept, or are adopted.
approved, yeah.
Okay, and that the BISAC recordings are kept and posted online with the town.
It's the same thing. The recording is the same thing, you're confusing recording and streaming. It's
That's
the
fine,
same thing.
right. But streaming live is what I'm saying, and so it's, all right.
So you want the BISAC recordings to be posted, not streamed?
Yes,
Okay.
I think, but Alice's point there is, what is the difference? It's
There's
the
no
same.
difference.
There's no
Just-
difference.
just
What is-
stream
what-
and-
right.
Stream and it would be treated
it's whether you keep
just
the recording
like-
of the streaming or not.
Right.
So everything would be,
It would be just treated just like the
Right.
Board of Aldermen meeting.
right. But the only one, but streaming is live, right?
Yes.
Okay, the motion is not that we are going to stream the planning board,
Right,
okay?
right.
BISAC, Mike?
BISAC post.
All right, we're only going to stream this meeting and the Board of Adjustments live.
Right.
We're going to record the other meetings,
Post a link to it.
and then we're going to post the BISAC
Post a link to the BISAC.
right, to that, and we're going to keep the recordings of the other boards for a period of the shorter of 6 months or until the minutes are adopted for those
That's what I
meetings.
have written down.
So my question is, for the BISAC, are those recordings going to be kept only for 6 months as well, or are they going to be?
Those are in perpetuity,
Okay.
yeah.
Thank you.
So we have a motion that I believe is clear. Do we have a second?
I'll second that one.
Additional discussion?
Hannah, what do you think? You happy with this or not?
I'd like to know how many people are live streaming right now. 5 point.
Are you comfortable with this for the board, the planning board? You're comfortable with this?
Yeah, we've been recording, we have our minutes, we don't have anything to hide from anybody, but we want people to come and be part of it and help us make those decisions. You know, we shouldn't have just, you know.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Do you want to, clerk, could you call roll on this one, please?
Aye.
Alderman.
Aye.
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 Okay, so are we, is that clear, the motion? Are you guys are good? Okay.
We've recorded it. Board various meetings, including Board of Adjustment and Board of Aldermen.
Yep.
live.
Yep.
5 separate recordings to be posted with a link on the website in perpetuity, sorry.
Yep.
And keep recordings until either 6 months or minutes have been adopted.
You got it. Thank you. Okay, we're going to move on to the next topic, which I'm sure Chief can shorten that one on golf carts.
Golf carts, a popular subject. We met and talked about parking, and one of the issues we talked about was golf carts. Just to give you a quick background, the state allows golf carts to operate on 35-mile-an-hour or less streets as long as they have a tag, they're registered, they have all the things that the state asks for. The state also allowed
Chief, just to clarify for the public,
Can we listen to the chief?
when you say allows golf carts, they're commonly referred to as street legal.
street legal
Right,
golf
it's
carts.
not
It's
your
not just a
garden
golf
variety
cart.
golf cart. There's certain
Right.
things.
Is the term not low-speed vehicle? LSV?
That is the chapter 20 term, yes.
Yeah.
I'm just saying for,
Low-speed vehicle.
Can we,
but
and one more
just-
thing, Chief. Ricky, could you click on B so we can, does that click up to the actual motion that we're going to talk through? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, Chief.
Okay. I just wanted to give you a background from the state. The street legal golf cart is one that has a tag, it's registered, it meets all the requirements the state has, and you can operate it on a street that's 35 miles an hour or less. You can cross other roadways, 45, 55, whatever it is, immediately across, and that's okay. The state years ago also allowed municipalities to let non-street legal golf carts operate on their highways in the municipality. And they didn't have to meet all those requirements. They had to come up with the requirements that the town or the city came up with. Our town adopted our ordinance, which I'm gonna tell you is really hard to enforce. We say that you can operate on 25 miles an hour or less. Now, that takes out most of the streets in the town, but we also exempted 21 other streets in the town. So whenever we see a golf cart, we're like, I don't know, they're on 18th Avenue or 16th or 6th. Is it okay? So it's really hard to enforce. The way golf carts have grown over the years, there are several municipalities that are doing away with their local ordinances and just going with the state. So our recommendation was to repeal our ordinance and go with the state, and that would be my recommendation. It'd be much easier for us to enforce. Also, the parking organization does our parking. If they give a citation to a golf cart, which would be the tag that's on the golf cart, the citation would go to the owner of the golf cart, which might be in Hampstead or wherever else it came from. So they would notify them immediately that they've been issued a citation for parking or whatever it was. And then when they turned the golf cart in, they would settle with the person that rented it to take care of that citation.
So I just have one question, because I do think that that is more simplistic and would be easier for the officers to be able to enforce. But is there a minimum age for the kids that are riding these golf carts?
You have to have a driver's license to operate
Okay.
a golf cart.
And would that still be in what you're recommending?
Oh, yes, it would, to go with the state
Okay.
statute, which takes care of all that.
Okay.
And this would also require golf carts to pay for parking now as well.
That was my question.
So why don't we do this? Why don't we follow the procedure and someone make a motion, we'll second it, and then we'll discuss?
Motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, discussion. I think Alderman Leonard, you had your hand up.
Yeah, just a couple clarification questions. To get a golf cart, get a tag on a golf cart, in North Carolina, it has to be both inspected and insured, correct?
It does.
Okay. I had a comment from a citizen about seeing a bunch of rent-me golf carts on a trailer with a South Carolina, they all had South Carolina tags on them. You know about it too. So, I mean, is there some way we can't stipulate that it has to be registered in North Carolina, right?
No, because it's just like a rental car. They
Okay.
rent cars. That's new to me, but South Carolina, I'm from South Carolina, and they never had tags on golf carts. They had a sticker issued by the state and to operate it. Now they have tags, and I understand some of these companies have some South Carolina tags.
So if we approve this, then that immediately means you gotta have a tag on a golf cart.
Right.
And if you don't have a tag on a golf cart, you can't drive it on any of the streets in North Topsail Beach.
No streets.
And are we going to enforce this immediately, or is there gonna be a grace period, or what's your plan?
I would say we only have a handful of golf carts that are registered through our program, about 5 right now. That ended in June, so people will be coming in to renew those, and we just would not renew those golf carts.
Okay. I think we have a lot more golf carts being operated on our streets than we have registered with our town, whether they're licensed and fall into the LSV category or not. You know, I think we got a hell of a lot of people that just get them and ride them around and kind of do what they want and don't register them with the town and don't have tags on them.
Right, and this will make it much easier for us to enforce. We have had a lot of people calling that are coming to stay a week or so at a time, and they've been asking us about golf carts, and we've told them, and most of them say, well, I'm not bringing a golf cart.
Yeah.
So,
Well, we
Tom,
do have them everywhere.
but to
and-
follow on to yours
Yeah.
about enforcement, so if they don't have a tag, would it be the police department who is issuing a citation to whoever's driving it? And if they do have a tag and are parked, that's when our parking vendor would be able to look up that tag and see if they've got a parking pass for it, assuming it's legal?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, that's fine, and I think to dovetail off of your question earlier about age, you know, that's a problem we're having, and it's a big problem that we're having, that I don't see a warning going to a 12-year-old, right, driving a golf cart, you know, driving Nanny and Granddad's golf cart because they're on vacation and it's cool. It's not cool, and it's not legal, and it's not safe.
No, we follow up with the parents or guardian.
And I hope that we're going to aggressively pursue all of this.
It'll make it much easier for us to do.
Thanks, Bill. I appreciate it. I appreciate your help with all of it, too.
Yes, sir.
Well, wait, I think Mr. Fontana, well, he's first, and then Mike, and then Rick.
Just a clarification, so I understand if you see a golf cart parked in a legally allowed parking area, but it's in the 45-mile-an-hour zone, you issue a ticket to that golf cart that's parked there, because it couldn't have gotten there without.
He said they could cross major roads.
But if they're on, like, say, the stretch of New River Inlet Road where you could parallel park along the curb there.
We have to see violations just like we do with other vehicles.
Like speeding.
Right,
So
like
it was
speeding.
parked there, if you don't have it couldn't have gotten there
Well,
legally.
they have to leave too.
Before I can come in on a trail. Who knows?
Right, we've had a lot of that.
Said they got us.
And some of the companies have been coming back. They've been calling the companies to come pick those golf carts up because they've rented them to them in a 45-mile-an-hour zone. And they're not able to drive anywhere. So people are kind of upset with the companies at the same time renting them.
Yes, sir.
So if we pass this new ordinance, it seems to me there has to be a grace period to educate the public. We just can't all of a sudden one day change the rule and then start issuing tickets that people had no idea we've changed the rule. So there has to be,
Right.
seems like
Generally,
a
we
grace
write
period.
warning tickets for a period of time,
Okay.
just like anything. Any
Are we
other
going to
ordinance.
stipulate that time period as 30 days?
Well, I'm not sure that we need to do that at all, because as Chief said, there's only about 5 people who've registered their vehicles. So if they get pulled over, they're not in compliance anyway today.
There are a lot more than 5 golf carts roaming around this town that should have been registered and aren't,
Right,
and
but
that's my point.
why would you give them a warning if they should have registered and didn't? That's my point.
That's why we give the officer discretion when they do it, because people might be gone for 6 months and come back
Right.
and jump on their golf cart and think they're good, so.
I have a
They'll
problem
work
with
that
taking the
out.
discretion away from you guys.
I
was
don't
gonna
wanna
respond
take-
to that.
yeah.
I don't like the idea of putting 30
It'll
days
work
on.
its way
The
out
second thing
pretty
is, I'm a
quick.
little bit confused. Tom said there's a 12-year-old driving a golf cart illegally. You're not gonna let him, you take the keys away from the kid. You're
Well,
not gonna let him keep
we
going.
We don't let them go home.
That's.
We get in touch with.
That's what I thought you
we had
meant.
a
I was
couple
like,
of those
you
this
can't,
weekend,
it's
but
like, don't do that anymore. It's not.
now we have to go get in touch with
Okay,
somebody.
I thought
get 'em
so.
picked up.
So my
like a
question is, the 10 golf carts that have already been registered, whose registrations ran out at the end of June, they knew they couldn't re-register, they knew something was up. Okay.
Okay, so I think we've gotten all our questions out. We have a motion, we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, sir, very much. Okay, Ms. Darian, you are next on code enforcement position and budget amendment.
Yes. As, what's that?
I was making a joke. I think Alderman Leonard and I had the same amount of coffee this morning.
Well,
Sorry.
the next item, as I stated in the budget message, as we went through the budget process to the board, I continue to monitor and will make recommendations as deemed necessary in regards to staffing. Priority is, of course, to ensure we have resources to be proactive versus reactive. Historically, the town had employed a part-time code enforcement officer that fell under the planning department. Based on current vacancies and demand, I am recommending the Board of Aldermen approve this new position as project facilitator / code enforcement officer. The position will serve as a code enforcement officer and be given specific areas to assist in where we have high demand, with initiatives and projects that would be assigned by me. Feedback that I receive from residents and the board is a desire to be more vigilant with certain behaviors that we're seeing, whether it's trash cans left out in the street for extended periods of time, dune violations, parking on the street, coming up with a light ordinance, and quite frankly, the list goes on right now. My desire is for us to become more proactive, and I feel this position is a step in the right direction.
So, why don't we again start with a motion, a second, and then have discussion?
Motion to approve?
Do I have a second? Second. Okay, any discussion? I personally, I think that, I'm in favor for this. I think that we are short-staffed. We are struggling to get to some of these things as you mentioned. So, to me, there's no question.
I think this is a great thing. I think it's having a troubleshooter and having it set up like this so that Alice has the ability to move this person around and target the stuff that we've missing, I think is a great idea.
And also and for areas where we're light-staffed, for example, if Kate does decide to take a vacation, somebody that can easily be trained to help fill in wherever Alice sees the need is perfect.
I agree. I'm really pleased with this. I think as the town continues to grow, we do need help in many different areas, in particular in the code enforcement, but also in other things. I think this is excellent. Thank you.
Yep, I agree as well.
I support it.
Can you read the...
Yes, so the specific action requested is I am requesting a motion to approve the project facilitator / code enforcement officer and associated budget amendment FY 23-24.1.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Nope. Thank you for catching us up on time. Okay, the next one is if we can have our other chief, Chief Soward, if he could come up and talk with us about a proposal to hire 4 seasonal temporary part-time firefighters in the fire department and another associated budget amendment 23-24.2.
Hey, well, thank you. So we are at a critical point in our operations. We've got one out on medical till March, so I can't fill that position. And then I just got informed we have another one going to go out on medical due to some surgery they have to have. So we're going to be running short all summer. So the option was to come up with some part-time. We've tried for several years to revamp the volunteer program with no success. One, we don't have the residents, and two, the residents we do have don't want to get up at 3 o'clock in the morning and run to the fire station and get on a fire truck, which I get. So this would help us out tremendously to keep our staffing levels adequate and to give some of our guys a break. You know, they've been working nonstop with everything we've had happen over the last year, so it would help our department out.
Okay, so why don't we, the specific motion would be to ask for a motion to hire 4 seasonal temporary part-time firefighters in the fire department and the associated budget amendment FY 23-24.2.
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any questions for the chief?
Yeah, I had one. I think it's terrific. I just wondering, where are you gonna find these folks, and can you get them trained and up and running in a timely manner?
Well, believe it or not, we actually get called constantly from surrounding departments wanting to know if we are hiring part-time. So I feel filling them will be easy, and fortunately they'll come trained and certified. So we'll just they'll have to run through our house side, learning our house side and our policies and stuff, and then they'll hit the ground running.
Alderman Grant, do you have a question?
Just, I'm assuming you're gonna watch the full-time, part-time issue.
Yes, yes.
Okay, so we have a motion and we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, Chief. Okay, the next item is open forum. Do we have anybody who is signed up or who would like to speak at this one? All quiet? Okay, I'm going on. We're going to move to the attorney's report. Okay, then the mayor's report. I just really wanted to thank the staff for all of the work that went into everything related to the Jazz Festival this weekend. It was a wonderful event. I was very thankful for Ocean City, the community, and recognizing how much our staff does for that event. I know as we're trying to bring additional events to the community with Parks and Recs, I just don't want folks to oversee, like, there's just so much that North Topsail does for that event. So it definitely is a community event townwide, and I'm thrilled that Ocean City is having it here. That's it. That's all for me. I'm gonna start with Ms. Plettle.
All right. I want to thank everybody who came out and the 2 people who are streaming live, as well as anybody who's watches later. The town has been operating very well, and I'm very appreciative of Alice and her staff. Everything's going great. As far as the sea turtles, again, it's not a competition, but there are 60 nests on the island, and North Topsail Beach has about half of those, so maybe just a little more.
And Alderman Leonard, before I forgot one thing. I really wanted to sincerely thank all of the efforts from Onwassa this weekend as we struggled with some water pressure issues and low water, and they stepped up to try and come up with a solution that would get us back. So that's greatly appreciated.
And
Okay, I'd like to thank everybody for coming out. I want to really thank the manager and the staff for the hard work over the weekend, a long weekend. I know, I guess it was Sunday. Went up to potentially pluck some people out of the inlet and didn't have to, but they were there, they were quick, and really good job on that. Onwassa needs to come up with a better plan than emergency plans that last minute jump through the hoop to fix the water issue. I had below 40 PSI at my house twice over the weekend. They fixed it now, but the way they fixed it, all of a sudden on Facebook, there are people down in Surf City complaining that they got no water pressure. hey, go figure how that happened. But the bottom line there is that all this development out here, you know, think about all those apartments that haven't been hooked up to the system yet, with all their kitchen sinks and all their toilets and all their bathroom sinks and bathtubs. Onwassa needs to come up with a plan, and it'd be great if maybe Onwassa could come in to one of our upcoming board meetings potentially and brief us on what the long-term plan is. And maybe, Rick, when you go back and talk to the county, there's some issue with development here and infrastructure not keeping up with the development, and maybe we need to work those together somehow. Only other issue I have is to update on Cobra. I've updated the board through an email. I had an opportunity last month to meet with Congressman Murphy at a social event in Jacksonville one Saturday evening. It was a 95th birthday party for a former Commandant of the Marine Corps, General Al Gray. It was well attended. Congressman Murphy was there to read what he had read into the congressional record about General Gray. But we had about 5 minutes. He explained to me where we were with Cobra. His staff has met with the staff members of both the chair of Water, Wildlife, and Fisheries Committee and the committee chairman on Natural Resources. Our bill is moving forward. It's not just a matter of, well, we had a bill filed and it's sitting. They're actually actively pursuing the bill. Congressman Murphy approached me to talk about it that night, which I thought was huge. Our bill will probably be wrapped up with some other Cobra relief bills this fall that will be acted upon, which will probably mean that we're probably going to need to send somebody up to DC to pitch why we need our Cobra bill to be passed in front of a subcommittee. I don't have any dates yet. I spoke to Ray Celeste this morning, and he said effectively there was nothing new since the last time he and I talked, which was right after I spoke to the congressman. But it was he who told me that they're going to try to wrap all these Cobra bills that are out there into one big bill that will hopefully be acted upon sometime this fall. And other than that, that's all I have.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem?
Thanks, Mayor. Our census data tells us that we have 30,000 weekly visitors in North Topsail Beach and 80,000 visitors to Topsail Island in the summer months. And as my colleagues have already indicated, we had really, I think, a pretty successful 4th of July weekend. It was fairly safe for everyone. I want to thank our police department, fire department, town manager for all the work that was done to keep everybody happy and enjoying the beach. One report I have from the Topsail Island Shoreline Protection Commission. We had our meeting last week or two. One thing that's coming down from the state is that there is an ordinance that now allows local communities to ban the abandonment of vessels in waterways within municipalities. And the Shoreline Protection Commission is going to work to come up with an overall ordinance for the whole island, working through the 3 towns to try to develop a common ordinance to ban the abandonment of vessels in our waterways around Topsail Island. That's my report.
Thank you, sir. Alderman Fontana?
Yes, I'd like to echo the statements about the 4th of July weekend and everything going well. But I also want to give a shout out to all the Turtle Patrol volunteers on the island, and particular to our area coordinators, Connie and Marie and Pam. They're out there every morning, often before 6 o'clock, often till 10, 11 o'clock in the morning. I witnessed on yesterday morning, Pam on her hands and knees, actually on her stomach, digging into a nest that had to be relocated, and coming back out of it just saying, well, this is fun. I really enjoy doing this. And it's amazing, and I think Connie feels the same way, and Marie, that are, and it's just, and all the volunteers, I mean, that are out there, they don't have to do it, but, and And it's an asset to the town as well. The times I've been out there, just about every Tuesday morning, somebody will come up and start talking about the turtles, and they'll want to know, how do we do it, and what happens when you find a nest. And we happened to be fortunate enough to find a nest the other day, and I mentioned it to some folks that we know that live in our complex, and they want to come nest sit in 2 months and help us when the little turtles come out. I mean, but all these people are volunteers. I believe there's over 300 volunteers on the island. Some of them come from Hampstead and Jacksonville. They're not all from here, and they just give up their time, and they don't get any compensation for it. And I think Connie and her staff are to be commended, and I think all the other volunteers are as well. So that's all I've got.
Thank you, sir. Alderman Grant?
Yeah, rather than repeat the comments about the 4th of July and the staffing and stuff, I thought it was excellent. As Tom had mentioned, I've had several kind of sidebar discussions with the county people about what's going on, particularly when you look at, I've talked to Chris, the sheriff, and stuff, just in general, without stepping into what our people are doing about response time with everything going on in Sneed's Ferry. I think this infrastructure thing is more than on Wausau. I mean, everybody that uses the internet here knows. Good luck. We've got issues with that. I don't even know what the power relationship is with with the power company, but I think it's something we need to figure out, because we're not, again, this is not a shot at anybody. Nobody is building a single family 1,800 square foot house here on the island to live in. What we're seeing is much bigger ones, and I think it's, in my opinion, I don't think it's going to get better. I think it's going to get worse. I know that Wausau has the plan for the pumping station here, but that is still some time away. But it isn't just going to be the water. And also, I've got substantive concerns that I have not raised with Alice or the fire chief, is about fires. We're getting a lot of these houses that are built very close to each other, they're very large homes, and it's not that long ago we had that fire down in Surf City where they just went from building to building to building. But I think it's something we probably, from a public safety standpoint, should take a look at as well, as to what's out there. Thanks everybody for coming. Anna, it's good to see you. I guess Terry left, and we thank you again, Larry, for showing up, particularly in the outfit that you had on today. So that's all I have.
All right, well, thank you. With that, I'm going to ask for a motion to go into closed session.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.